Hi Nathan. We're the Random Group, and I'm Parvesh.
I'm Anissa.
I'm Melissa.
And Anissa and I are going to be talking about Terra Nullius Invasion and Collision by Parvesh.
I'm going to be talking about Taylor and Zin's reading about teaching history in a more unbiased way than has been previously taught. I hope you enjoy.
See you in class. Okay, so the central ideas I got from the Terra Nullius reading. So it's pretty much about Aboriginals, racism, so how Aboriginal people are seen compared to white people back in those generations. So the reading exposes the treatment of Aboriginal people. It mentions something about in the 1970s the deaths of 6 Aboriginals and how they were ordered to occur. Aboriginal people were not tolerated. They were taught a lesson first without causing any issue to begin with. Women and children, were shot as a method of getting rid of the race so they don't reproduce. They were kind of one of the primary targets, women. I talked a lot about children witnessing the murders of their parents and relations, and family members carried away to captivity. Quoted by McGrath was, "We should make some atonement for the misery we have entailed on the original proprietors of this land." So this I really liked. I think that we don't think enough about the original owners of the land and what they went through and faced and had to deal with. I remember in high school in English class I did a presentation on the stolen generation. So when I researched information and history, I came across a website that was dedicated to the stolen generation, and it was where you can make a formal apology online, or talk about your thoughts and things like that and what happened back then. So that was quite cool.
Yeah.
So this reading had quite a few images throughout, which illustrated the treatment of Aboriginals and what they faced. There's one in particular which kind of was quite overwhelming and confronting. I mean, they all were really. But it was of a soldier on a horse with a gun and another one shooting at the Aboriginal men. So clearly just stating war and what happened. So I found these quite well and
It's interesting to, well, not share to that extent with kids, but to show them what has caused the conditions that Aboriginals face today. They really still are second-class citizens, and the way they live is so different to us. Like, they don't get the same privileges that we do.
And as much as we try to push forward, offering scholarships and, are you an Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander, kind of you get, they try to, encourage that. It's still, I don't think it still works. Oh, it was terrible. I was watching a documentary with my dad and my sister the other day, and it was white Australian policemen, and they were investigating the Aborigines and stuff like that, and then just the treatment was just, I actually changed the channel. It was just not, it was really not disheartening to watch, to be honest. I don't know.
You think we're kind of better than that now, but it's still just
not.
And a lot of forms that you fill out ask if you're Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander.
Yeah.
It's quite interesting that they do that. So Anissa's going to go...
Yeah, there was a poem in there by Jack Davis from 1788. It was quite powerful, and it was just saying, and just how that, people are saying that, Aboriginals should just forget about that, move on, it's the past, keep going. Yet Reynolds' quote points out the hypocrisy of then the community respecting and recognising fallen warriors and embedding lest we forget on monuments. So at the same you're saying, forget about this type of past and the ill treatment here, but respect our warriors because, it's the same past kind of thing. You just ignore one and praise the other.
Yeah.
I didn't really like that at all. Deterioration and psychopathic was the description given to the relationship between Europeans and Aborigines and the groups of white shooters and slaughtering of camps during the 1880s and 90s. It entailed extremely distressing descriptive stories of their reality. I wasn't too familiar with in such depth, to be honest, even from primary school, lessons on Aboriginals and the Australian history. I don't know, it was the torturing and extreme behaviour that was quoted by the Aborigines was just sickening. I really didn't enjoy it, and I found it to be extremely distressing, but at the same time it made me think that, perhaps these are the type of stories and realities that should be known to the world and to students rather than just, white settlers took over the Aboriginal lands, they were paid off with alcohol, they were put to camps. Just the, on the surface level type information. And, as heartening as it is, perhaps those are the stories of, watching your loved ones being shot, 16-year-old boys being kicked to death, and ruthless slaughterings are the authenticity that needs to be known. It was interesting, the reference to religion, that they were saying that God, was white and Adam and Eve were black, and their expulsion from the land of Eden were highlighted to demonstrate the use of religion, as a means to accentuating why Aboriginals had to live off tucker while the whites had food that they desired and all the power. The use of religion even back then to divide, I guess, the public and using their own interpretation, I guess.
Yeah, like using it as an excuse.
Exactly. The white Australian policy, often the assimilation as segment, articulates the fact that the Aboriginal population wasn't dying down as had been predicted from all the camps and everything, but it was rather growing. And in 1993, a new policy was embedded entitling Aboriginal people to the ordinary rights of citizen, which was described as being the first, really humane statement of Aboriginal policy, giving them ordinary rights of citizens since the end of the colonial administration. However, the land was still being lost to mining companies, and it took over 9 years for it to be returned, as well as for government policy to be, referendums to be put through. Parvesh then opens up the discussion on deaths in custody by bringing up the infamous John Pat case, the 16-year-old kicked to death by off-duty police, and the fact that there was never closure for the families that suffered, and even still to this day, as police were all acquitted. And I don't know, so coming from a criminology background, there's always this talk of this silence amongst the brothers, or code of silence, and they would back each other up. Which, I mean, I understand that, as police, and you're trying to defend, if the police and the organisations start to deteriorate and just shut down, then it doesn't give much confidence to the public and whatnot. But at the same time, they also separate them from us. Yes, they have authority, police and everything, but at the same time, they're still accountable.
Yeah, they should be. They shouldn't be above the law.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the end of the terra nullius came about in 1992 with the High Court judgment in the Mabo case. It overturned the legal fiction of terra nullius. Even though the case was in reference to the Murray Islands of the Torres Strait, it undoubtedly had implications of land across Australia. So, in for legal system, even though there's a precedent set there, you can refer it to previous ones, and you can refer it to the future cases and whatnot. So the final section of the piece acknowledged that Australians have been forced to confront and come to grips with the real story of Australian history and the nature of Australian identity, which includes recognising that white Australia, like the terra nullius, was a racist lie. And it was a difficult concept to grasp, I think, for many, particularly older generations. But, I mean, the truth at the same time needs to be respected and acknowledged.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think kind of what we were talking about before is, it's quite a difficult topic to talk about, but it's an important one that we need to discuss.
Yeah.
I thought, sorry, Mel.
Oh, that's right. I think also because, in the areas where we're teaching, there's no Aboriginal children to kind of put this opinion forward. And, I think I've seen it even in my own schooling that there's a bit of racism still towards Aboriginals among children. We had two boys I think they were from Gippsland, they were Aboriginal, and they got a scholarship to come to St Leonard's for, I shouldn't have said the name of the school, I think they were going to come for the year, and they ended up leaving early because they were just so uncomfortable because people weren't treating them the same as everyone else, and even the teachers were a bit uncomfortable around them. One of my teachers said, this school it makes you realise how white this school is when, people who are so different come in because, they just didn't know how to deal with them. Yeah, it was like they're from a different country, and, they were just from, another part of Victoria.
And it makes you wonder, are we moving towards a brighter future, or what's really going on here if we're still discriminating against other nationalities? And Australia is so multicultural and things like that, but
we still don't acknowledge Aboriginal, every other culture is acceptable in this, but it's I think we've been brought up almost, with I don't know what it is, to be honest.
Yeah, it's just entrenched kind of racism
that you've been brought up. I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyways, I guess overall I thought the article brought brilliant insight into the reality of the events, emotions and pain caused to the Aborigines. That being said, the harsh authenticity of the piece made me rather uncomfortable to read, especially from an education schooling perspective, where we weren't really exposed to the real degree of brutality that took place. Understandably, given its controversial explaining the ruthless aspects of Australian history to explaining
Just the real brutality.
Yeah, explaining that to 10-year-olds. I think we need to steer clear from maybe a Eurocentric approach to the Australian curriculum and acknowledge the wrongdoings and perhaps recognise that, indeed our history and the nature of Australian identity is disturbing, like that white Australia, like Tony was all a racist lie, but, you need to recognise that. And children can learn if we acknowledge, especially bringing up, the Kevin Rudd's apology and everything.
Yeah.
Like, mistakes can be made, but
definitely. Big mistake.
Maybe forgive but don't forget either, kind of thing.
Yeah, because if you forget, it can happen again.
Exactly, and that's what they're been saying, they're saying to Aboriginals, forget about it.
I don't.
Don't forget about them, but then remember, your war heroes and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Interesting reading, yeah.
Very
Very
deep.
confronting.
Yeah. My readings are kind of, they followed on well from that. They both talk about that you need to kind of present history to students in an impartial way. The study of history is fundamentally about investigation and explanation. So you shouldn't be pushing your own agendas onto the students, and there shouldn't be kind of any sort of agenda built into the curriculum, like a Eurocentric approach, holding up, the First Fleet as heroes and, pioneers, when perhaps some of the things they did weren't so heroic. And also it's important, as we were talking about before, to teach students about our past histories so they can they can find answers to issues and problems that you find in today's society in Australia. There's always an answer for everything. So you need to teach from a variety of standpoints and perspectives. So perhaps if you're teaching about the settlement of Australia, teach from maybe the English perspective and the Aboriginal perspective, and let students kind of make their own decisions about it. And also foster critical thinking. There's no one right answer, and you need to be able to justify your opinions. You can't just say something and have nothing to back it up. And address the issues of class and conflict honestly. I guess trying not to shield children too much from history, but also, not confronting them with, so much brutality that's going to traumatise them.
But teaching it in a specific way that, is less confronting, but also gets across what you need to educate them about.
Yeah. I actually had a great teacher in grade 6. She was very kind of passionate about Aboriginal rights. Well, maybe, I don't know if she pushed her own opinions onto us. I'm not sure, but she exposed us to literature about the plight of Aboriginals. So we read, I'll show you the covers. We read Dougie and Gracie, and there's another one called Ray. There's that one. It's in reverse, the camera. And that one. There's a really fantastic books. I don't know if they're 100% appropriate for grade 6 because there is a bit about like sex. There's a bit and suicide. It's a bit confronting, but it really kind of showed to me that Aboriginals were just living in such a different Australia to the one that we're living in, where the police aren't necessarily upholding justice, where you can go into a hospital and not get treated well, because their mother died of lung cancer, and they're kind of looking at, well, she's an Aboriginal, she's probably been huffing petrol and smoking 10 packs of cigarettes a day bought with the government's money, but they don't think
like that stereotype that is associated with them.
Yeah, and they don't think, oh, she's someone's mother, she's a person. They just
it's like a stigma, isn't it?
Yeah, massive. They kind of just think, oh, she's brought it on herself. I guess another aspect of history that I'd like my kids to be informed about, because I taught in a really diverse school for my last placement, is about refugees. And I found another great book called The Arrival by Sean Tan. It's not about any particular time or place, but it is about the experience of being a refugee. It just shows, oh gosh, it's going to be backwards, so it's going to be really hard. But it shows the experience of, the horror that's experienced in another country, and then coming, how you escape. You might sneak onto a train or sneak onto a boat, but you're not trying to push your way into another country. It's out of desperation. And there's another really good picture that just shows what it's like to be somewhere where you don't really understand what's going on and what's happening. Yeah, because there's no language in this book. There's no English, so it just shows the experience of, they're not stupid for not understanding English, not understanding the way the things are done. They're really overwhelmed, and it's important that they find people that can help them. So I think it's important to teach a bit more empathy because, especially with the Abbott government, their line is very much anti-refugee, which I don't like at all because a lot of my kids were refugees and coming from Cambodia and stuff like that, just for a better life, and they shouldn't be discriminated against. I think that's really important. Yeah, there's all the resources.
Okay, so I also found a book called Mirror by Jennifer Baker. So it's won multiple awards. It's an innovative picture book, also with no language, no words. And it's got 2 parts designed to be read simultaneously. It's about the experience of 2 boys from different parts of the world and their families. So they each lead strikingly different lifestyles. They wear different clothing, etc. But with all these differences, it talks about how they're really the same and how they're a mirror for each other. So I thought that was a good resource to educate students on, history and how it's a part of our country. And although we may be different and have different types of lives and lead different types of lives or wear different clothes or how we look, in the end we're all the same.
Oh, that's nice.
So I thought, relating to the Terry Nollis reading, it's good to acknowledge things like that, but at the same time we need to acknowledge that we're all the same, we're all human.
Yeah, exactly. And I think going on from that, I was thinking, what can we do? Other programs? There's one thing to know all this information about it and be aware of it, but to, I guess, integrate and work with, moving forward, kind of integrating both cultures together and everything. So I found this, it's reconciliation.org site, and it's sponsored by KPMG, the government, Commonwealth Bank, Qantas, all SBS, all of pretty prominent organisations, and it just provides all these different programs related to Aboriginalism, different programs like integrating, letting people be aware of the different cultures and everything and how to apply and be forward, and just kind of there's people there to help you kind of thing and just push you forward. It also brought up, because I was quite interested in the Mabo case from studying it a few years ago. There's the National Reconciliation Week from the 27th of May to the 3rd of June, which is celebrated every year, but at the same time I haven't really heard of it that much, which is kind of it's it commemorates the case, exactly the Mabo case, the success of that in 1967, and it's it just emphasises that that's a week for all Australians to learn about our culture and share histories and everything, but also I don't really hear of it, which is probably the saddest, not saddest, but it's a great organisation sponsored by so many yet. And it's pushing forward, National Reconciliation Week. Everyone be aware of this and stuff. And I'm sure, all the Aboriginals are aware of the Mabo case and the dates and everything. But is that taught in schools? Why aren't I aware of this?
Why aren't we celebrating?
Yeah, why aren't we celebrating stuff like that? We celebrate, Anzac Day and all these other,
all the white holidays.
Exactly. But these things aren't brought up, and it's I don't know. It just it really spoke to me.
We've got still a long way to go, don't we?
Yeah, which is a shame given, we're in the 21st century already.
Yeah.
We can recognise these things.
I also found a Aboriginal Education K-12 resource guide that had background info and resource links. So it's pretty much like a guide to assist teachers in how to teach students about the Aboriginal culture and things like that, which I found was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I remember in high school I watched Rubber Proof Friends.
Oh, yeah, same.
Yeah.
So
makes you cry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very confronting.
Yeah.
That was our
that's
an interesting week.
It's very
Australian history.
Thought provoking. Yeah. Thanks, Nathan.
Thank you.
Sorry it's a bit long, but it was
we got really into the discussion.
Yeah.
And stuff. Freestyling, but anyways, we'll see you in class.
Yeah. Bye.